Bulldog fans, and welcome into a brand new season of the Bulldog Blitz. I'm your host, Mark Minner. It's a new look for the Blitz this year, and coming up on the show today, the men's basketball team is on a two-game winning streak after a big win over Wright State Thursday night. The women's basketball team takes on Cleveland State this Saturday, and we will introduce you to the new Blitz Breakdown segment. We'll also be joined in studio by the new head coach of the Butler softball team, Scott Hall. A lot to cover in the season premiere, but up first, the Bulldogs will be carrying in some momentum into their showdown with Detroit on Saturday night. This coming after the Bulldogs secured the 71-63 victory over the Wright State Raiders on Thursday night, despite Matt Howard being in street clothes. Howard sat out the game because of a concussion suffered in the previous game against UIC Monday night. The Bulldogs started out with a much smaller four-guard lineup, controlled the pace early on. Butler went up on a 13-0 run before the first media timeout in the game, and then it looked as though the crowd get into it and have an easy win for the Dogs, but back came Wright State with a 15-2 run of their own, helped by some strong shooting from downtown. It would turn out to be a game of runs as Hahn helped pull the Bulldogs back on top by 5 at the half with back-to-back three-point field goals. The shooting was so strong for the Bulldogs in the first half that Butler only missed one two-point field goal. Butler held on to the lead in the second half. Wright State pulled it to within 4 with a minute 30 left to play, but it was too little too late. The Dogs hit 7 of their 8 free throw attempts late and pulled away to secure the 71-63 win. Shelvin Mack had his 6th 20-point performance in leading the Dogs in scoring. Andrew Smith, Sean Van Zandt each had 15 points. Smith also added 6 boards, a couple of steals, while the senior Sean Van Zandt hit several clutch shots throughout the contest for the Bulldogs. Butler shot 73% from the field in the first half, finished their second best shooting performance of the year at 57%.
You know, it's not too often that you start 4 guys under 6'3". I think Chase, they said, was 6'4". That's wrong. It's not 6'4". But they were really spread out because those guys can all play and shoot, and that opens the paint up for Andrew. So it worked out all right at both ends.
No, I mean, I just do whatever to make my team win. If I'm open, I'm going to shoot it. If I drive, look for a teammate, get my shot off, do whatever it takes to win.
What does winning without Matt do for this team?
Well, you always want Matt on the floor at all times, but when I'm winning without him, a lot of people stepped up. Kyle, Drew, everybody stepped up, so it means a lot winning without Matt.
Andrew, what's your take on that?
He brings a lot of energy to the team, so I think that's kind of the main thing we need to make up for, because we obviously have players who can score and play defense, but he's obviously the one who's always flying after rebounds and getting loose balls. So that was kind of one thing that I personally was focusing on, just to try and give our team more energy, because I knew that was going to be one thing that would be lacking.
All right, well, let's get you caught up right now on the standings. Butler now 9-5 in conference play. That is tied with Milwaukee. But at the top right now, it's Valparaiso 10-3, Cleveland State 10-4, Wright State 10-5, and then you've got that Butler-Milwaukee tie. Detroit is at 8-7. Then following Detroit, you've got Green Bay, Loyola, Youngstown State, UIC. But it is a cluster at the top there. 10-3 is the top score. Butler at 9-5, and you're still tied for 4th place. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Butler, of course, playing Detroit Saturday night at 8 o'clock, so that'll be a close one. 9-5 Butler, Detroit at 8-7 in league play. The 9-3 women's basketball team will continue their road swing in Ohio on Saturday when they take on Cleveland State at 4:30. Butler coming off a 73-56 win over the Penguins of Youngstown State on Thursday night. It was a career high for Chloe Hamilton, who finished with 34 points and 9 boards in 35 minutes. The 34 points by Hamilton was not only a career best, but it was the most in 10 years by a Butler player. Chloe shot 11 of 16 from the field, now has the 5th highest single-game points total in Butler school history. Brittany Bowen was the next highest scorer for Butler with 12 points and 8 rebounds. Becca Bornhorst added 9 points and 6 boards in her 29 minutes out on the court. Butler opened up the game with a 12-0 run, and Youngstown State did not score until 6 minutes and 24 seconds into the contest. This Saturday, the Bulldogs will face Cleveland State at 4:30. The game can be seen on HorizonLeague.com. We'll take a look at the standings right now for the women's basketball side, and Green Bay tops things right now. 12-0. They are unbeaten in Horizon League play. Green Bay, of course, ranked in the top 25, one of the premier programs in the nation. Butler right behind, now at 9-3. Wright State following behind Butler, Milwaukee, UIC, Cleveland State, all around that 5-6 win mark. Loyola, Detroit, Valpo, and Youngstown State, who the Bulldogs beat, still with just one win on the season. But it's a battle right now at the top, a little more spread out, but Green Bay will have to lose a couple for Butler to get near that top spot. Time now for some news and notes around the Butler Athletic Department. For the second straight year, Andrew Huck and David Lang are members of the Academic All-Pioneer League football team. 7 of the football players on Butler's team were named to the 18th annual squad this week. Mike Stanowitz, Michael Wilson joined Lang and Huck on the All-PFL first team, while Nick Caldecott, Jordan Ridley, and Grant Hunter were named to the 2010 second team. The award was established in 1983 to honor student athletes that either start or are a key reserve player and maintain a GPA of at least 3.0. Butler's cross-country team announced the signing of 2 high-caliber runners on Thursday. First up, it's James Martin of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Tom Kerr of the United Kingdom. They will join the team next year. Martin, a high school All-American from Carroll High School in Fort Wayne, came in 12th place at the 2010 Foot Locker National Championship. Kerr comes to Butler after finishing runner-up in the 2010 U17 English National Cross Country Championships. Also, one last note, if you didn't hear, there will be a new head coach for the men's soccer team. Paul Snape will replace Kelly Finley as the coach of Butler's squad. Finley left to take a job at North Carolina State and was in charge of the team that last year did not record a loss in the regular season. They eventually fell to Michigan State in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Snape comes to Butler after being an associate head coach at the University of Michigan. The Wolverines made it to the Final Four in soccer this past season. When we come back, we will have our first ever Blitz Breakdown. Stephen Peak and Alyssa Garfinkel will join me in studio. Stay with us right here on the Bulldog Blitz. Welcome back into the Bulldog Blitz. We are excited to premiere a brand new segment here between Stephen Peak and Alyssa Garfinkel. We're going to call it the Blitz Breakdown, a little bit of a rant style, a little bit of a back and forth to see what these two have to say about different things in Butler sports. Steve, Alyssa, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Steve is the sports editor for the Butler Collegian, and Alyssa was on the volleyball team and has worked on different volleyball broadcasts, so they have a little bit of background, a little bit of experience, right? You have a resume, don't you?
Just a little bit. It's very short.
Just a little bit, right. Okay, well, our first topic, let's not waste too much time. Let's talk about men's basketball, and we're talking about this Horizon League. It's coming right down to the wire, just 4 games left for the Bulldogs, and everybody at the top is stacked. So if you were to guess right now, where are the Bulldogs going to finish?
I think Butler's going to get edged out by Valparaiso, who's playing very strong basketball. I think Butler's going to get a bye. I think they're going to be second. Don't think they're going to be hosting. It's not going to be the Butler Invitational, as some Horizon League coaches have been calling it.
In the past,
and
right?
Very disdainfully calling it that. But I think they're going to be second. I think they're making a nice push. The schedule's set up well for them. The remaining opponents are in the bottom half. So it's there for them to take, especially after last night.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, like we see that they are right now in 5th, and I think it's going to be a battle all the way, though. You know, like they have 4 games left, and they're in the bottom, and those teams are in the bottom, but at the same time, they beat Wright State last night. They still have Cleveland State, who's ahead of them, and we have to keep considering how they're going to do. They're a game behind most of these teams. It's 2 behind others, so it's also going to be how the other teams play out also. But
does that matter in the end of the day? If they're not hosting, can they still take care in the tournament?
I actually think it kind of plays into their hand. We saw last night that without Matt Howard, people stepped up, one of the best shooting nights of the season for them. And, you know, maybe it's a nice change. Maybe it's something just a little bit new and get some fire.
You know, I think they're playing at their peak right now. We've seen them struggle a little bit, and now they've kind of realized, well, it's the end of regular season. We got to get something going and pick it back up, and people are stepping up exactly when they need to.
Okay, let's move on. Matt Howard, Point of discussion, you saw his face. It looked like a horror movie almost against UIC with all that blood coming out from that elbow he took. He sat out against Wright State. They get the victory, but against Detroit, a much taller team, Wright State didn't have Troy Tabler, so prevented some different matchups. Against Detroit, do the Bulldogs need Matt Howard?
I think there's two parts to this. There's the do they need him, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, you could always use Matt Howard on the court. At the same time, if it's another precautionary thing or it's a matter of keeping him rested, I think they could still edge out and get a nice win, especially having the game at Hinkle. Could keep him on the bench.
Well, not only that, but you got to consider they had 4 guards and a post in their game last night at one point, and it was fast-paced, much different from what we normally see. You know, they weren't working in the post; they were shooting out around the perimeter. So that's something that you got to consider. That can Detroit hang with them if they're running at that fast pace?
Mm-hmm. Well, if Howard's out of the game, who is it that needs to step up, though, Steve, in your eyes? Is it Andrew Smith?
You could say that Andrew Smith needs to step up, but I'd say that he's already at that next tier. I think his steady improvement across the season has been undeniable. It's there for everyone to see. He's very different from November than he is in February. So I think the person that could step up to parallel and work well with Smith is Kyle Marshall, who had a good game against Detroit earlier in the season and has been putting in really strong minutes, averaging, I think, 9 off the bench about before that, not as a starter.
Yeah, I think Andrew Smith is going to have to come out and play strong, but it all comes down to Kyle Marshall. Can they have other posts that are going to step up towards the end of the season?
Well, there was our first buzzer, so you finally went over time. Good.
Wow.
We got a little bit of discussion. They're going to give us the buzzer again. Okay, hold on. Let's keep moving here. Women's basketball now. They are doing pretty well, too. Now 9-3 in Horizon League play. It's been interesting to see the dynamic of this year's team. You don't have that Mel Thornton of last year. You thought Sarah Ham was maybe going to be a presence. She goes down with injury. And now you're left sort of with Brittany Bowen, Chloe Hamilton at the top. Hamilton coming off a career-high night. If you had to say who is the most important player to the team's success going forward for the rest of the league and beyond, who would you say it is? Alyssa, we'll start with you this time.
I think you got to give it to Chloe Hamilton. She had 34 points last night. And, you know, she's constantly been up in double digits. She's the one stepping up for them right now, playing selfless team basketball, and she's the one that's going to be out there and get it done for you.
My pick might be a little bit more of a dark horse pick.
Oh, you're going with the dark horse,
yeah,
Steve.
Believe it or not.
We expect that from you. That's right.
My pick is Claire Freeman.
Okay.
And the reason for that is Chloe can create shots in and out. You've got Brierly, and I mean, Brittany Bowen is established. You know, she's going to do things. But the person getting them the ball is Claire Freeman. And, you know, I've seen her bring the ball up. She initiates well. She works well, especially with Bowen, I think, getting the passes in there. So she's distributing, maybe not Rondo-esque, but she needs to play that role if you're a Celtics fan. And
I'll agree with you on that, but at the same time, Claire Freeman, you've seen her numerous times kind of struggle a little bit. You know, she's been taken out a couple games because she hasn't always been the one showing up, whereas Chloe Hamilton's constantly being in there, bringing her game every single night.
Chloe's the consistent factor. You know, that's why I guess Freeman's the dark horse. You know, she's going to have to step up. I think right now, you know, points are the leadership. Well, Claire can kind of take that role, I think, within the team and push the offense
And that's
forward.
for any point guard. And
Absolutely.
I'll agree with you there. You know?
Absolutely.
Right, we got to move on here. So now we're talking softball. We're going to interview the head coach, Scott Hall, the first season coming up just a little bit on the Blitz. This team picked to finish 3rd place, tied in that spot in the preseason poll. They start their season February 18th. New coach, new field, a lot of things looking up, coming off a good season. Mm-hmm. What do we expect from the team? Are they going to finish above that 3rd place mark in the league play?
I think so. I think I might push on this and say they could get 3rd or 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, they might get 3rd, but they're returning a lot. They're returning a really, really strong field of players all around, outfield, infield, with the exception of losing that left half of their infield in Payne and Dolan. But I also kind of like the new culture of winning that's being brought in with this coach. They've done well in the past, but Scott Hall has an impressive resume in the state of Indiana.
Yeah, he's definitely a great coach, and I also think, you know, they have 6 returners from the field and 3 top pitchers that they're going to have. You know, Jenny Esparza, who's done a great job, all newcomer, who's definitely stepped up. So I think you're going to have the same experienced team coming back, and they know what to expect. And with this great coach, I think it's a lot of motivation for them right now.
And there's a nice dynamic within the team as well. They work very well together. They on and off the field, they work well off the field together. I think especially well mentally, just being a great team unit. And I think it's exciting. I think it's an exciting season for them.
I think it's going to be a good look, but you got to remember, you know, with this new coach, are there going to be some adjustments? Is it going to be times where they're having a lot of adversity or something like that? So you're going to have to consider Can they make third? I think we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, we will find out. We'll talk to Scott Hall here just in a couple of minutes on the Blitz. And our last topic is a little free-for-all. And, Steve, I know you're excited because you finally get to run your mouth a little bit more, right?
It's
A
never
little
good.
bit, yeah. Okay, we're going to call it a toss-up here. So we're going to see whatever's on your mind under the Butler Sports umbrella. And guess what, Alyssa, we'll start with you this time.
I'm just going to go ahead and ask this question that everyone has been asking. Is Gordon Hayward the missing factor right now? We've seen the Bulldogs struggle a little bit, went on a couple, game-losing streak. Is Gordon Hayward that factor for them right now?
Yeah, I think his calmness under pressure and his ability to handle the ball is what's missing. I think Norrid brings that, but with more fire. His way of doing that is much, much different than the way Gordon did it, and obviously Gordon being 6'9" and being able to crash the boards anytime he wanted to.
And that's my other point.
is the hard
We're
part.
missing, now that Matt's out, we're missing that big post. Would Gordon Hayward be that factor for them right now? And not only that, but he is such a big player. He's not getting much playing time in the NBA right now, so did he make the right decision?
I think he made the right decision. I think he went kind of just based on the league and its setup. Things that aren't basketball, I think, forced him to go early. But, of course, I think it's undeniable that Butler is missing him right now.
Steve, do you have anything on your mind real quick?
Absolutely.
And what do you got? We got 20 seconds.
Is baseball going to give me more than 20 wins this season? That's what's on my mind. Because, it seems like we got one sport, maybe two, kind of every season that's pulling us and showing us a lot of success. I'd like to see baseball mirror and kind of travel and partner up with softball in the winning ways.
Steve, I can only hope that baseball can grant you that wish.
I
for
hope
the
so,
senior
too.
year. That's right.
It'd be a nice end.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Stephen Peak, sports editor of the Butler Collegian. Alyssa Garfinkel, great job, as I would expect. Thank you for joining us this week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, that'll do it. Coming up next, we've got Scott Hall, head coach of the Butler softball program. You won't want to go anywhere. Stay with us on the Bulldog Blitz. Welcome back into the Bulldog Blitz. We are delighted now to be joined by Scott Hall, the new head coach of the Butler softball team. Scott, thank you for joining us in studio.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start first. We talk about your career, and it's not on the collegiate level. Most of it's been in high school, 10 years, and now you come to Butler. Talk about that transition and a little bit of background on yourself from Pendleton Heights.
Sure. I started coaching high school softball about 12 years ago, actually, at my alma mater at Shenandoah High School. Got a teaching job at Pendleton Heights and took over the softball program there and had great success. Had a lot of kids that made the transition to college softball. I was just a little behind them. But it was a goal of mine. About 5 years ago, I really started looking into the possibility of going after a college job. But with some family ties and stuff, moving wasn't a real big option, so I kind of had to just sit and wait. And Butler was always sitting there in the background, and the opportunity opened up, and I'm very fortunate to be here.
Now, this fall you've been pretty busy, and I know we've talked before. One of the busiest things that you had to deal with was that brand new field you've got going on. Talk about the excitement and the energy about having that new facility.
It's been a lot of work. My assistant Megan Slack and I put in a lot of hours out there. We had a lot of help, but the school has really stepped up and financed a lot of renovation out there, and we're really excited. The kids are just thrilled to death. We've completely redone it. Bulldozed the whole field pretty much. Laser graded, new infield, new grandstands. We go from seating about 75 to seating right around 500. Wow. So it's a completely different feel, and the girls are real excited. We can't wait to get out there.
I've talked to a few softball players in the last couple of weeks, and they said one thing about you is how smooth you've made this transition. They fit right in, and that you've garnered a lot of respect from your players, and I'd have to imagine you probably feel the chemistry's right where you want it to be going into the season.
I hope so. I will say when I initially was hired, I made phone calls to all the kids, and I said, what's our strengths going into the season? And unequivocally, every single one of them said, we really get along well. Our team is, the chemistry's there, and so it's been they've helped me and my staff transition real well because they're just a great group of kids and ready to work hard, and we've been real excited with what we've seen.
Now the preseason polls are announced. You come in a tie for 3rd place in the preseason poll. Is that kind of where you saw yourself figuring out? And I would have to imagine that you see yourself as a better team than that come the end of the Horizon League play.
We hope so. It's an honor to be up there with those guys. There's some great programs up there, great coaches. The Horizon League itself has, I want to say, 5 new head coaches. You know, so I think there's a lot of uncertainty about where people will be coming under new leadership. So I think a lot of those standings are based on last year and the kids that are returning to all these programs. But we're real excited with the kids that we have back and coming off last year's very successful season. So 3 is a good place to start. Hopefully we end a little higher than that. So that's our goal.
Now, when you came in, obviously you said you made the phone calls to a bunch of the different players, trying to figure out what the strengths are. So you take all that into account. What would you say the single biggest thing that you've worked on this offseason, maybe skill-wise, and then obviously chemistry of an important part, but on the field, what's the biggest point for you?
You know, just refining skills, getting them used to our staff's philosophy, different setups for practices and things like that, trying to keep it fresh and new every day. Obviously, with our weather, it's a little difficult indoors to keep things fun and exciting. But you know, just it's always difficult coming in and kids having to learn different philosophies, different techniques and things with skills. Softball, much like baseball, is a skill sport. Right. You know, athletics plays a big role in it, but it's a skill sport. So just learning different techniques and things like that.
One of the players that has really caught my attention, Jenny Sparza, All Horizon League last year, smashed the strikeout record, 242, had 17 wins last season. Talk about how much of a leader that Jenny can be on this team and the excitement that you have for her next season.
Right. I had the fortune, as I told you last night on the radio, to be the one that presented her with her Miss Softball Award in high school at the All-Star game. So I competed against her, coached against her for 4 years in high school, and you could see then her progression into just being the star that she is. And she has really taken on this leadership role. Most pitchers that are that caliber of pitchers have always been used to that type of pressure. But I think she's really ready and capable to take this team to heights that they haven't seen before. But her work ethic is unmatched. And then you put that next to her talent level. She really just picks up that whole pitching staff, and they all want to work hard.
Well, let's talk. You alluded to it. Cold weather here in Indianapolis. Everything's frozen over. You can't really do that much yet. You've got your game on February 18th down in Mississippi. How have you been getting the team ready on such short notice?
Well, we can't dump a bunch of dirt on our tennis courts, so we're taking ground balls on the asphalt surface that they have in there. So it's a little different. The ball bounces a little different in there. So we're just trying to make things as much game-like as we can in there. I said last night it'd be kind of like Coach Brad Stevens getting his team ready for their first game and only having practiced half court. So we're doing the best we can. We've got some great facilities. You know, it's really just going to be kind of a measuring stick when we go down there. Obviously, we want to go down there and compete and win, but we're not expecting huge gains down there because, again, we haven't been outside yet. So, and all the teams down there have already played a tournament this weekend, actually. So we're just hoping to go down there and come back with a little better idea of what we need to work on and hopefully a little better weather when we come back home.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, and good luck on the rest of the season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Scott Hall, the head coach of the Butler softball program. They go down to Mississippi February 18th and get underway with their season. Look to improve from last year preseason top 3. That'll do it for our conversation with Scott Hall. Much more to come on the Bulldog Blitz, though, including a look ahead at the rest of the weekend. Stay with us. Saturday, it's going to be a busy day for Butler sports. The men's tennis team takes on the Purdue Boilermakers at 9 a.m. in West Lafayette. The second-place women's basketball team will take on Cleveland State out on the road in Ohio. That one gets underway at 4:30. You can check that one out at horizonleague.com. The women's tennis team will play a crosstown match at IUPUI, which gets underway at 6 p.m. And finally, the men's basketball team will take on the Detroit Titans at 8 p.m. inside Hinkle Fieldhouse. The Bulldogs are now on a 3-game winning streak and continue to push toward the top of the league standings. That game can be heard on 1070 AM The Fan here in Indianapolis and seen nationally on ESPN2. Finally, on Sunday, the men's tennis team will wrap things up for Butler this weekend when they host the Drake Bulldogs inside the Butler bubble at 1 p.m. Well, that will just about do it for the season premiere of the Bulldog Blitz. Make sure to catch us on Hoosier TV or online at youtube.com/Bulldog Blitz Sports. Until then, I'm Mark Minner. We'll see you right back here on the Bulldog Blitz.